Hello chess friends and welcome to Zarov's chess channel and welcome to the round 27 of the TCEC Super Final Season 14 between Leela C and Stockfish. So the result after 27 rounds is now 14-13 for Stockfish, and Stockfish took the lead in a couple of games before with 3 points ahead. Now Leela plays very actively and Leela managed to get 2 wins, so now Leela is only 1 point behind Stockfish, and they're really playing dynamic games. The draws that they're playing are also attractive to see. The winning games are really something special, and these two top engines are playing really nice chess. And whenever I have time, I just watch the games on my cell phone, and you see, I don't lose any moment. I want to see what's going on in their games. And today I wanted to show you this beauty from round 27, in which Leela crushed really this Philidor defense, the line defense, with a very active and early flank attack. And I have to consider this opening line because I choose always another opening line against the Philidor defense, so I like this more. This G4, you'll see in the continuation of the video that this G4, it really makes sense. And let's see now Leela's brilliancy, and with this win now Leela, as I said, has only 1 point, is only 1 point behind the Stockfish. So let's see, E4, D6, D4. Okay, so far it can transpose maybe with G6 into the Spurs defense, or with this knight on F6 and E5 ideas in the Philidor defense. So knight on F6, knight on C3, C3, and now knight from B to D7. And okay, now it's obvious that black will try to play the E5 move. This is this so-called line defense, but there is this problem about this line defense, and you see we have here a so-called crowded situation. The bishop is a little bit blocked out, and here Leela uses this moment because you see the bishop is not controlling the G4 square. Now Leela plays an aggressive move G4, and as I watched this game and as I saw that Leela played G4 here immediately, I knew that something special will happen in this game. Even if the game ended in a draw, I think it will be a dynamic game. So here we have H6. Of course, here was a threat, the move G5, so you see black already has to defend here, and now here we have H3, which is okay. I think it's a very good move because it supports so far this expands on the king side. And now we have C6 with the preparation to play the move E5 and then queen on C7, which would be the standard setup in the line defense. Here F4, and okay, we have created a very strong attack with these pawns, but the problem is that you have also left some spaces here in front of your king. So while playing this aggressive line, you have to also watch for your king, and the best way to defend your king is to defend the king with your knights. And you'll see how Leela in this game will actively play with the knights. There will be both an attacking and defensive pieces in this game, and I really liked this setup by Leela. So here E5 was played, immediate breakthrough here, but here maybe the most common move is the move B5, because you're preparing B4, and of course you want to deflect the knight from the defense of this E4 pawn. So maybe white would be forced then to play A3, because we are not allowing black to play B4 immediately, so the move has to be prepared maybe with A5, and then after that with B4. If white tries this immediate E5, it could lead into really complications here, because after B4 you're forced to play the knight on E2. Here we have knight on D5, and one of the most common moves against the Philidor or the Perch defense is this pawn sacrifice on E6, because after f takes E6 and queen on D3 we have here this likely problems around black's king. So basically black would be forced then to play knight on B6 and then maybe hide the king behind these 4 pawns here. So this would be really also an aggressive line, but in the game Stockfish decided to play the move e5 and not allow white to push this e5. So here knight on f3 was played, because if you now take maybe e takes f4, then of course the bishop can get out with the tempo here, and again we would then have the preparation to push the pawn on e5. The white's bishop is not an object of the attack because we push this immediate g4, so this knight on h5 idea to attack the bishop on f4 is not now possible. And but okay, this would be, I think, a mistake if black takes here on f4, or if black takes here on d4, then we can maybe get out with our queen with the tempo, again with the same idea to push the pawn on e5. So so far black is not going to react here in the center. Bishop on e7 was played, and now bishop on d3. This is also an important move, because now we want to have a compact position, because we have really pushed these pawns too far. It's really aggressive here, and we want to have a good central control. This bishop on d3, although it's placed a little bit here behind this pawn on e4 and it's blocked out by its own pawn, but it creates this firm and compact position around white's king, and we have to have a nice central control, because one of the rules in chess says if you want to play on the flanks early, you have to have a good central control. So this bishop on d3 is meeting with this idea here. In the continuation, Stockfish simply castled, and here if you try maybe moves as g5 to immediately attack the knight, then black can maybe take. If you try f takes g5, then we have here e takes d4, and now knight on d4. Then you can simply go with the knight on e8, and okay, black has a little bit slowed down now the defense of the attack of white. This is also maybe playable here for black. Basically what we want to do is maybe put the knight on c5 and liberate the light square bishop. So if you play here f takes e5 in the continuation, then you get simply d takes e5 and then d takes e5, and here black can even play knight on h5, and after that we can fix the knight here on f4. We would then get white would be forced to get rid of this very strong dark square bishop, and white will have to play maybe moves as rook on g1. So you see, after castling, now d takes e5 was played, but now after d takes e5 we have f5, and you see now this very good central control by white. We have really fixed this e4 pawn with the bishop and the knight, and now the threats are, of course, rook on g1, then after that h4, and then after that g5 to kick away the knight and creating this covered attack on the king here on the g file. So knight on c5 was played. Here we have the idea, rook on g1, we have b5, and now queen on e2. So of course now the threat is the threat was of course b4, and if you play something like knight on e2, then you will lose the e4 pawn. So that's why queen on e2, and now rook on e8. Now if black plays b4, well, then you can simply play knight on d1, and this is now really not a problem anymore, because in the next move you can play knight on f2, which will again control this important e4. And you see, with this b4 move, the black's attack on the queen side a little bit splashed here, so there's no way to create a fast attack anymore for black here. You are forced maybe to play a5, a4, but I think it's too slow. You see, you need 3, 4, maybe even 5 tempos to create an attack here. Meanwhile, white is already on the attack on the king side with h4 and g5 ideas. So that's why instead of b4, knight on rook on e8 was played, and then here by white knight on d1, again with the preparation to play knight on f2. Knight on d5. If you try e takes d5, well, that was sort of a tricky move by Stockfish. You will lose the game immediately because you will have this very strong move e4. If you take bishop takes on e4, then we have c takes d5. If you move the bishop, then you get bishop on h4, creating the discovered attack with the check, and you lose the queen here. So that's why after knight on d1 and knight on d5, king on f1 was played. And okay, we have now really weird position by white's king here. Now black is forced to do something with the knight, so of course knight on f4, and we have here bishop takes on f4, e takes f4, and now knight on f2, again supporting this very important e4 pawn. If we lose this e4 pawn in this types of position, we'll probably lose the game. So as I said, in order to create this flank attack, you have the center. The center must be fixed here, and here black tried knight on d3, but here c takes on d3, which is again a support of this very important e4 pawn. So a5, and now Stockfish tries flank attack on the queen side, but I hope you realize that these two knights, as I said in the beginning of the video, are also defensive pieces but also attacking pieces, because these two knights are supporting ideas like e5, maybe again g5. So this knight on f3 is really strong. This knight on f2 is really defensively strong, but it can also maybe come into the attack with moves as d4 and then knight on d3 or similar ideas. So double function here by the two knights. I really like the setup. Meanwhile, this f4 pawn is really weak, but that's not the problem. We don't want to lose time in order to get an attack on this f4 pawn, which is really not important because we can immediately try to push forward. And g5, you see, Leela plays simply on the attack, h takes g5, and now we have h4, g takes h4, and now we Leela accomplished here this open g5, and now we have a discovered attack on the king. Queen on d2. Now, of course, we would love to take the f4 pawn, because we want to then maybe bring the queen on the g file and creating checkmate threats on g7. Here c5, and this is now the worst mistake here by Stockfish. Here, maybe for Stockfish, the best continuation was to play the move queen on d6. And if you try now e5, you have queen on b4. And of course, we would love here to trade off the queens, because if we get off, if we would have the queens off the board, it would really lead into simplifications, and white wouldn't have this checkmate threats, and this queen on b4 would be also supporting the f4. So here, after f6, bishop on f8 would be the continuation. A mistake would be to take the queen on d2, because you get then first rook on g7 with the check, and after king on f8, then after that we would take out the queen on d2. So after bishop on f8, the continuation would be maybe f takes g7, but now you can take bishop takes on g7, and now queen on c1 with an attack on the c6, but now you can defend with bishop on f5, queen takes on c6, and now you simply bring the queen on e7, and if the queen comes here on f6, you can simply play bishop on g6. Now after a trade of queens, this would be a really simplified position. The material would be one pawn up for black, and basically black's idea would be an attack on these two pawns, and if we grab one of these pawns, it would be really a winning endgame here for black. So c5 I think was a mistake here by Stockfish. Now Leela simply took the pawn on f4, rook on a6 was played in order to get the defense here on the 6th rank, because we have also in a couple moves maybe the possibility to push the pawn on f6, because we have created the spinning situation on the g file. And now e5, again with the preparation to play the move f6. So here a4 was played. Here we have rook on e1, which is also very strong move, and you see now this compact position by the pieces around white's king. Although white's king didn't castle here, it's still a compact position around white's king, and I hope you realize that this white's king is still not in danger, although it's on a weird square on f1. So a3, we have b takes a3, which is also a tricky move here by Leela, because we would love if the rook takes here the pawn on a3, and also we don't mind if the rook then after that attacks the pawn on a2, because now the rook would be deflected from the 6th rank, which is important because of this potential pawn breakthrough with f6, or maybe even just even with pawn breakthroughs with the move e6. So rook on f8 was played, and now rook on e2, and now king on h8, rook on e3, bishop on b7, and now rook on g4, with the threat to take in a couple of moves this h4 pawn. So here, of course, rook on h6 in order to protect this very important h4 pawn. But now you get f6, and this bishop is trapped because you're not allowed to take the pawn on f6, because you get checkmated in one move. So here queen on h6 would be the continuation. So that's why bishop on f6 had to be played by Stockfish. And you see after e takes f6, now queen takes f6, queen takes f6, and now g takes f6. We have now a position in which Leela is piece up, and of course has a winning endgame here. So let's see now the continuation. Very strong attack by Leela with this preparation against this Philidor defense, against this line defense. I hope you realize that this king is still not in danger, although it played a little bit weird here through the game. Here knight on h4 was played, rook on h5, and now knight on f5, cementing the knight on a very active square. Bishop on c8 was played, and now knight on g3. If you try something like bishop takes on g4, then you get knight takes on h5, bishop takes on h5, but then rook on h3, and of course this bishop is lost because it's on the same file, it's on the h file. So here after knight on g3 and rook on h6 was played, and now we have bishop on the rook on f4, bishop on e6, and now cementing the knight on a very active square here on this e4. Here we have f5, and now knight on c5. Leela takes another pawn. Now we have here the position in which black is left with this two double pawns on the f file, and it's basically one pawn, and meanwhile if we take out this b5 pawn, we can also create a pass pawn situation on the a file. So rook on a8 was played. Now a4, we have b takes a4, rook takes a4, rook takes a4, and now knight on a4, and now we have this position. Of course, it's a winning game for white. We have the pass pawn situation on the a file. We are one piece up here, and let's see now how Leela played this endgame. f4, rook on e2, rook on h5, knight on c3. We have rook on c5, rook on c2, king on g7. Now of course king on e2. We can play also actively with our king. King on g6, king on d2, and now rook on h5, rook on b2, rook on h2, and now king on e1. And again, you see these knights are really good defensive pieces around white's king. They also can be attacking pieces, but now this knight on f2 prevents ideas like rook on h1, but it's basically even unnecessary here for black to try to check white's king. If you try to check the king too much, then the king can go maybe in the center, and if we get with our king in the center, this would be a very strong piece in an endgame. Rook on g2, here we have rook on b4 f3, and here a4, bishop on d7, and now a5. King on g7, and now a6. Leela simply is continuing to push the pawn. Rook on g1, king on d2. We have rook on a1, but now a7. Rook takes on a7, but now king on e3, attacking the pawn on f3. If you try maybe rook on f4, here of course bishop on c6 can be played, so that's why first king on e3, rook on a3, but now rook on c4 protecting the knight, king on f8, and now king on f3. And again we have created now this situation in which black has only one pawn. We have also pass pawn, so let's see now the continuation, but it was really an easy win from this point on for Leela. King on e7, king on e3, rook on a7, d4, rook on a1, rook on c5. We have king on e6, now knight on e2, which is an improvement of the position because the knight will come on this active square on f4. f5, knight on d3, we have rook on h1, and now knight on f4, attacking the king, king on e7, rook on c2, rook on a1, rook on b2, rook on a3, and now king on d2. We have rook on a6, and now rook on b3 with the preparation to cut out the king with the moves as rook on e3 here, but now bishop on e8. King on e3 comes here, also on very active square here for the king. If we trap somehow this pawn on f5, it would be even an easier endgame for white here, so that's why king on d6, king on f2, bishop on f7, rook on h3. Now this rook comes on this very good h file, because now the threat is of course to play rook on h6, and this will be a loss of the rook, so that's why king on e7. But in this position Stockfish resigned. We can simply continue to push the pawn here with the support of this other pawn. Then the rook can go maybe to the 6th or 7th rank attacking the king. So of course the Leela would need still maybe 10 or 20 moves in order to win this game, but it's a completely winning endgame with this piece-up situation. So very strong attack, I think, by Leela with this G4 preparation. Let's see now again this opening. I think it's something special. This G4, this bayonet attack against the line defense, I think it's very strong. You see that in the continuation we were able to really push the pawns forward here, and this important bishop on d3 has to be played also in order to keep the center closed here for white. I think it's a very good attack, because if when I play against the Philidor defense, I like this setup, this classical system against the Philidor or this line defense. After e5, I basically always prepared with moves as bishop on c4, but I have to consider now this g4 bayonet attack. I think it's much better. It's much more aggressive against this black setup, because you see it's really a weird position, this knight on d7 and knight on f6. These knights are really blocking out each other, and they're also blocking out this bishop, and I think because of this crowded situation and this passive situation by the pieces, this g4 is really a strong idea. And from this point on, I think I will play this bayonet attack against the Philidor defense. So very nice game by Leela. I hope you enjoyed it. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games played by computers, and you can also watch my best chess games of all times if you want to see regular fellas playing chess, playing brutal chess, like Mikhail Tal, Garry Kasparov, and Neshmedinov, and the top grandmasters in the history. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.